Hi,
Okay.
guys.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back to This Shit Happened.
Yay.
I'm Danielle,
I'm Lauren.
and we have our special guest, Diego.
Wow,
Yeah.
so special. Thank you for
So
having me
special. I forgot to tell you, Diego. So we do, I know I told you this in text, but we do a video version that we post on YouTube, and
That's
then
great.
also just the one where people listen to us. So Lauren and I are kind of bad at showing things to each other and then be like, oh shit, people who are just listening can't see that. So if there are things that we talk about, we try to add them into the posts as pictures.
Sounds
And
great.
then now everybody knows that. Know our secrets. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining our secret
Behind the scenes.
behind the scenes. Yeah,
Super interesting.
so we are going to talk about art shit that happened. It will be a quarantine edition because I feel like we all kind of started something new during quarantine to just kind of help our lives. But as per usual, we are going to start with our fun facts. So my first fun fact of the day is that cats have fewer toes on their back paws than on their front paws.
What? How did I not know that?
I don't know.
Do they only have 4 on the back?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm
Wow.
gonna look at Charlie's feet because
Yeah,
they have
I'm
the little
gonna-
thumb in the front.
Yeah, they have.
Spend some time with my cat's toes today.
Yeah, go look at Lulu's toes.
Thank you, Danielle.
So scientists think that the 4-toe back paws might help them run faster, but in reality, they don't know. So
They're just guessing.
they're guessing. We can't ask the cats yet. Someday. My next fun fact is that Kleenex tissues were originally intended for gas masks. So, yeah, I know. When there was a cotton shortage during World War I, Kimberly Clark developed a thin, flat cotton substitute that the Army tried to use as a filter in gas masks. The war ended before scientists perfected the material for gas masks, so the company redeveloped it to be smoother and softer and then marketed Kleenex as facial tissue instead.
Wow.
That is a fun fact.
That was a fun fact, I must say. And my next fun fact, this one is specifically for Lauren. Blue whales eat 500,000 calories in one mouthful.
Holy shit. That's so many.
So many.
So many calories.
So, yeah.
I eat that much in a day.
I was going to say, I feel like I eat that for lunch.
I don't know about
Good job, whales.
Good job eating all them calories. It's like what I eat in a month. Well, sometimes. Depends how I'm feeling. Maybe a couple weeks. My next fun fact is, I feel like I have this conversation a lot of what the fuck is that tiny pocket in your jeans for? Well, the tiny pocket was created to store your pocket watches. So originally jeans had 4 pockets, the tiny one, 2 in the front, and then 1 in the back. The end.
My pocket watch doesn't fit in that tiny pocket though.
That's because they've changed the size of them and they're...
Okay. Now they're useless except for chapstick.
Yeah. I don't think that's a watch, Diego.
I mean,
No.
Oh, here's Charlie. He says hello.
oh, there we go.
I had a pocket watch for very long.
Okay,
Because
I'm
I
gonna
am
do...
a fun person.
You are a fun person. All right, I'm gonna do 3 more because I really like these ones. Okay.
You can come.
Turkeys can blush
How?
when they're scared. When they're scared or excited, like when the males see a female they're interested in, the pale skin on their head and neck turns bright red, blue, or white.
Oh my god, I love that.
Wow. Now I want to compliment a turkey next time I see what happens.
I wonder, we have a turkey that, like a lone turkey that just wanders back and forth. So
We had a turkey jump on my neighbor's car the other day. He was just chilling on the roof of a sedan.
next time you have to go flirt with it. Go out there and back.
I know.
Yeah. Oh,
I bet you that sounds great in people's ears.
You know what? Deal with it. They should have watched us instead. Okay. Most Disney characters wear gloves to keep animation simple. Charlie?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
okay.
didn't want the mouse to have hands because he was supposed to be more human. It's the other reason for Mickey Mouse's gloves, because mice don't have
Hands.
if you give them gloves, then you can just hide whatever's in there and you can pretend you're fully
Yeah,
into.
it could be Paws in there. We don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, straight up. All right, one more. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. The man with the world's deepest voice can make sounds humans can't hear, but
Who can hear it?
can.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Worth it!
It's 8 octaves below the lowest G on a piano.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that is intense.
Where is this
Wonder
person?
if the elephants-
Do we know who this person is?
His name is Tim Storms, and he can't even hear himself hitting that note. Like, how did you figure that out?
Exactly. How did he discover that he was doing that? And
That's great.
and then did the elephants go like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's just wandering around with elephants. They're like, excuse you.
Oh man, that's good.
Or you
That's
could like
great
feel the
insight.
vibration and couldn't hear it. Like, how
Oh,
weird.
yeah.
Like, you can hear all of your other sounds, but then nope, can't hear myself.
Can whales hear it?
No, I don't know.
Mm.
We'll have to. I don't know.
I like
think,
whales.
I think whales hear the higher pitches.
I
I
think
wonder
so too,
if that
yeah.
sound makes turkeys blush.
It's a good question. There we go.
Oh,
All right, passing the torch. Have fun, Lauren.
sorry, that's an idiot dog.
You know what?
Um,
I have idiot
all
cat
right.
here batting at my freaking microphone. So
So I'm going to do
Sorry,
some of
Charlie.
my on this days, because today, the day you are hearing this, if you are listening when it first comes out, is May 29th. So on May 29th, in 1453, Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, fell to the Turks and ended the Byzantine Empire. And ever since I read that, I've had "They Might Be Giants" stuck in my head.
yeah, that's what I was just dancing to.
Yep.
Constant.
Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Yeah. So I had to include that just because it made me, I had to go listen to that song. So May 29th, 1790, Rhode Island became the last of the original 13 colonies ratifying the U.S. Constitution. It's a while ago. In 1851, Sojourner Truth addressed the first Black Women's Rights Convention in Ohio.
Damn.
And then in 1886, John Pemberton began to advertise Coca-Cola. John Pemberton, back when he started it, though, it was like a drugs tonics, one of those snake oil salesman type gigs with cocaine.
What?
May 29th, 1900, they trademarked escalator by the Otis Elevator Company. Elevator, not escalator. Sorry, I typed that wrong. But I'm scared to think of what a 1900 elevator was like.
I mean, just watch horror films.
Trial and error.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust one. But
No.
In 1942, on May 29th, which is a really weird time to do this, but I guess Bing Crosby recorded White Christmas.
I mean,
I guess in order to get it out by Christmas time, but that's like one of the biggest like recorded song, like selling songs. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then almost done here, 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay of Nepal were the first to reach the summit of Mount Everest.
Oh, damn.
They were part of a British expedition there. And then as I was going through these events from May 29th, there's just so many Indy 500s and spelling bees. So I don't know. So there were like Indy 500 things happened in 1971, 77, 83, 94, 2005, and 11. And I'm just now realizing it's probably a Memorial Day weekend thing.
Yeah. That makes sense. We don't care about holidays.
No. But the one in 1977 was when the first woman drove in the Indy 500. Her name was Janet Guthrie.
Oh.
And then just because of the spelling bee thing, I kind of wanted to throw you guys under the bus and see if you could spell these words.
Oh, you're hecka rude.
I'm evil.
You are evil. I'm bad at verbal spelling, but let's make fools
You can
of
write it
ourselves.
down. I won't make you do it the hardcore way. I will give you the words. You can write it down if you need to. So in 1980, which was the 53rd annual spelling bee, the winning word was elucubrate. Elucubrate.
I don't know that word.
You do?
Can you use it in a sentence?
Did you say lucubrate or elucubrate?
Elucubrate.
Elucubrate.
Yes.
I don't even know what that means.
So the definition, I can give you the definition, to produce specifically a written work by working long and diligently on it. Is to elucubrate.
ILL. What letter do I want next? Elucubrate. So that's like curate. So probably C. Q C C U B R A T E.
All right, let's see. Elucubrate. Come on, Diego. Elucubrate. Okay, so I'm gonna just say elucubrate. Elucubrate.
Oh, I just dumped water all over my desk.
Good job.
Because I was so excited. Because fucking yes, Diego, you nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn, Diego.
Oh, Diego.
Nailing it.
Nailed it.
I probably won't be able to spell another word until
I don't know. The next
35.
one it's pretty. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it's not a hard word for me to imagine. But in 1986, the 59th annual spelling bee, the winning word was odontalgia, which is a toothache.
Toothache?
Danielle looks like she hates me.
I do. One more time.
Odontalgia, which is a toothache.
Oh. Hey, Charles?
Odontalgia.
D.
Don't think that's it.
That's my guess. Charlie?
OD.
That's how you spell it.
That's how I spell things.
Why does Lauren hate us? My fun fact that I didn't say is the current American flag was designed by a high school student. How's that for Memorial Day?
That's a good one.
It started.
There was also something about the presidential flag was dedicated that on the day too, but I skipped it because I don't fucking care.
It was a school project in 1958 in somebody's
That's relatively recent
history class, and it earned a B-.
What? Fuck that teacher. Asshole. Asshole move.
He designed it with 50 stars, even though Alaska and Hawaii weren't even states yet.
That's why we had to add them.
This guy was like, I can see. After Dwight D. Eisenhower called to say his design was approved, the teacher changed his grade to an A.
A teacher doesn't know their shit.
There we go.
Clearly. Odioteology.
Yep. Exactly it.
That's my guess.
Odontalgia.
Odontalgia. I mean,
Odio.
To me, it sounds like
Odin. Odin.
That is like the Spanish word we use for the dentist, odontología. So I'm just gonna use that as a reference and fuck it, see what happens.
I mean, English was based on stealing every other language anyway.
Odontología. Fuck it. Sorry. All right, so we go. Odontolgia.
So close. Talgia.
Mira.
So close.
Love it.
And then our last one
Oh no.
was in 1997, which was the 70th annual spelling bee. The final word was eunym. A eunym is a name that is well suited to the person, place, or thing it is naming.
Oh, of course it is.
A eunym.
E-U-N. U-M. I don't know.
No.
You're no.
Eunym. Eunym.
Meenum.
Eunym.
Eunym.
Eunym. That's so tricky because English is very tricky. English is a tricky language.
Stupid. It's
Eunym.
stupid.
Eunym. 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 Shoot. Sorry. I'm gonna say starts with a eunym. Okay, so it goes. Eunym. A eunym. It's a E-U-N-E-M-B? No? Eunym.
There's no B. It's
No.
E.
E-U-E-U-N-E-M-E?
No.
Shoot.
E-U-O-N-Y-M.
What?
It's got a silent O in there. I looked up how to pronounce it. It's eunym.
Silent O.
We got the EU. I think we're rocking it with that EU going on.
Yeah, I need to educate myself on silent O's.
Oh, goodness. Well, now that Laura's broken us, I didn't have
Thank
to.
you, Laura.
Now that I made everybody sad.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. She was like, by the way, you're all dumbasses. Let me just remind you.
I'm just glad I was on this end of it. Because I wouldn't have been able to spell most of those, I'm pretty sure. And that would be really embarrassing as an English major. But I'm not a great speller.
I just have Google. So, Charlie, I swear, if you press any buttons right now, eunym.
It's a good word. Eunym.
All right, let's pretend that Lauren didn't just ruin our lives for a minute.
Happy Friday!
Yay!
Because we're recording on a Friday.
It's Saturday. We wake up at 5 a.m. and record this so that it can be released at 8. Is what happens.
Yeah,
it's totally
more behind the scenes. Totally true information.
So we decided. Well, lots of things went into this. Diego was like, you have a podcast? Can I be on a podcast? That's my dream. And we were like, fuck yeah, Diego, you can be on our podcast. So we kind of have been thinking about what kind of topic we want to discuss. Yeah, go away, Lauren. Nobody knows. Except for Nella, who
I have to grab a towel.
Because Lauren spilled water everywhere. So yeah, we were thinking about what kind of subject, and we kind of already did the creativity portion, but we realized that through quarantine, we all kind of found something to help us find an outlet that was either something that we used to do or something that we have picked up or whatever it may be. So we landed upon the fact that Diego has been painting a lot. So with those paintings, I was like, well, why not just discuss art? Because art encompasses lots of things. I've been exploring more the free form of dance rather than what can somebody teach me and I can replicate, but finding the art within it for myself. And I don't know that it was necessarily quarantine or if it was the fact that I found a space because so many people wanted to be they wanted to still find that connection, even though we were separated from each other. And it really gave me an opening to explore for myself. But what was it for you, Diego, that started you on this path of all these awesome paintings you've been doing?
Thank you, Danielle. I mean, for me, it was a variety of things, to be honest with you. Yes, pandemic being a huge influence on it. And for me, part of it was, I mean, just to give Lauren and the listeners a little bit of context, we know each other because of dance, right? We've danced together many times, and dance has really had a huge impact on who I am and what I do. So with the pandemic being and arriving upon us, that aspect of my life sort of was put on hold, and I was falling into a very, very dark place because my body was not moving as it once did. So Alex, my wife, she encouraged me to find different outlets, an alternative outlet to that creativity that was sort of piling up. And one day she gave me a notebook, a sketchbook, and some pencils, a watercolor book and paintings, and she's like, here you go. And that was and continues to be a great outlet during this time. And it was a good way to reconnect with past things, to be honest with you. I was drawing from a very early age. Drawing was a big part of my life at some point, primarily because my earliest memory of drawing was at a therapy, at a child therapy. The
art therapy.
Yeah, so the therapist was asking me to draw my family. That's the earliest recollection I have. I was probably, I want to say 6 years old, and I was drawing, and eventually during elementary school, around 5th or 6th grade, I was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, I was obsessed with it. So there was this kid in my classroom who was really good at drawing Goku and all the characters of Dragon Ball Z. So he was teaching me how to do it, and I started drawing more and more. Mostly those characters, I would just draw instead of doing my math homework or whatever. I would just be drawing Goku and blah, 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 whatever. And in middle school and high school, I had to take drawing. It was part of the curriculum. Mm-hmm. It was not so much a pleasure activity as you have to do it. So going back to now, it was a good way to remember that I once enjoyed that, and it was a part of something. So it's just going to town and finding that outlet, just drawing, painting. It has become a great addictive outlet.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it absolutely makes sense. I was really big into drawing too as a kid. I have this spiral bound notebook still from, it was in the 90s. But it is a Lion King like journal. Like they used to, you get the journal, just a notebook with the movie on the cover that you liked. And I filled it with drawings of Lion King characters because I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, to the point where my mom took the VHS away from me because I wouldn't stop watching it. and she hid it, and I found it. And then I carried it with me everywhere if I wasn't watching it, and I slept with it under my mattress so she couldn't get it. So I get it. And then, because I was really into drawing and I loved to draw and create, and I used to do it all the time in elementary school and up through high school. And then somewhere in high school, I got really frustrated that I didn't like my art style. I didn't like my like signature look in all of the things I drew because it was all very cartoony. And now I wish I had kept up with it, because if I could cartoon now, I'd be ecstatic. But, you know, when I was like 15, 16, I was like, I can't draw anything realistic. I fucking quit.
Realism is
stupid. It's not stupid. It's just not my thing. And I would be happy now to be able to cartoon again if I could.
Cartoon is fun. Cartoon work is
It is. And I also have tried to get back into drawing. During lockdown, I started, you know, I got the Procreate app on the tablet for drawing, and I've started doing lots of vector art with just like silhouettes and colors, mostly of dancers, because I also am in that world. And I think
that's great, Lauren.
Dancer bodies are just beautiful in motion. So I find lots of stills online, and I like to make silhouette colors of the dancers and then do like a color theme. So like I have this one that's all blues and teals. It's very watery. I have another one of a dancer that's like jumping, and it's all red and orange, like fiery.
Fantastic.
It's been really nice to do also.
That's great.
I'm not cool like that. I just like,
you know,
I have a coloring book. I color those things, and I'll like pretend that I'm fancy, and then I'm like, wow, I'm not fancy. But I was doing some chalk art with the kids and was teaching them how to blend on the sidewalk, which they didn't understand. I'm like, yeah, if you use your finger and you rub it, which just turned into them covering themselves in chalk. And like, look at me, I'm blue. And I was like, you are very blue. But it was like, it's just those things where I like to figure out how somebody attempted to do something. So I'll watch lots of things of like people making colors. So when they're doing the skin, you know, oftentimes they start with a base color, and then they add like there's greens, and like there's so many different colors that go into it. It's not just I have this colored pencil that's called flesh, and that's what it is. It's how do you blend these things? And that's always super fascinating to me. And I feel like over the quarantine, I've watched so many random videos that, you know, just show all of these layers. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I just watched a 10-minute video of somebody painting. Like, it's so fascinating to me how all of that works. And like my drawing as a kid was usually, I would look at a picture of something and then I would draw it for myself. And that would be me drawing. Like I didn't ever really try and create things. It was, how do I recreate this? And, you know, my parents bought me a book that specifically allowed you to do that. And they were like, wow, you're good at this. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. But I was always, it was always something that was like, if I got bored, I would look at my hand in class and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to hold my hand like this and I'm going to draw it.
There
and like, right. And it's like,
I love drawing hands.
What is wrong with you?
I love it. I don't know.
there's so many details in it. Like when you can find the shading and like add in all these little, like there's something about it that looks super cool once you've drawn it.
Yeah.
I can't draw hands to save my life.
I bet you could. Just look at your hand and like,
no, there's too many lines. And then when you try and draw like all the knuckle wrinkles and the nails, and it looks like garbage when I do it.
That's what shading's all about.
Yeah, my problem, I get too hung up with my line art looking funky because there's no shading to add depth. So then I try to like add line art lines to indicate to myself where the shading's gonna be. And then it just overwhelms me with all of, there's too many lines, and I'm like, well, fuck it. I just trash it.
I mean, yeah.
And then I go find a video to watch of somebody doing like pour painting, where they just pour the acrylics and then they spin the canvas.
That's so cool.
I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah.
I would love to make that big of a mess.
Do it.
I don't have the setup.
I used to have that, like, that marble painter where you would just like press the button and it'd spin and you just drop things. Like, that's totally what that is now. But I used to do that all the time. I won it at my elementary school had a silent auction, and that was one of the prizes. I was like, I need that. And I won it, and I was just like, oh yeah, pour paint. Like, it was so cool. But it's just like the things that we forget are considered art. Like doodling on a notebook for you might just be random lines, but for somebody else it could be art. Or, you know, you like, I don't know if you've seen Diego's stuff. He has an Instagram, which we will share on our thing.
Yes, we will.
But he does these things where he's just like tracing lines, and on some of them he'll like color in spots, and, you know, it's like seeing these stories, and like even just the lines, especially as a dancer, I think about like, this is a path that something took, and this is like my thought process, and now I'm over here, and like even just doing that is so interesting, and I love it. And I just like stare at them, and I'm like, like I look at Diego's stuff and I'm like, I want to be able to just like scribble on paper and be like, wow, that's fucking awesome. But if I do it, I'm like, the shit is that? Somebody else does it, and I'm like, wow, like,
right.
It's so interesting, and like how you figure out like what it is.
This is just a sample. It's an example.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right?
That is,
cool.
I've seen, so I've always, when I was younger, I used to be all like, modern art. And then now that I've gotten a little bit older, I can appreciate the amount of time that goes into something that complex, because you're figuring out what colors work good together and what line weight works good together, and where it's heavy, where it's light. And I've tried to recreate my own versions but I get so hung up in like, this is not going to look like anything. It's just going to look like smudge. It's hard to do and not have it look like smudge. I don't have that.
Smudge, man. Yeah. It's just like,
just smudge it.
To be able to use that as an outlet and create something that fills people with so many emotions is like, I love that. And that's what I want to share through my art forms. And like my particular art forms are dance and writing. And, you know, it's like, sure, I could draw things as like an amateur style, but it's not. I mean, I was at Diego's house last weekend and we all painted together, and it was fucking awesome. And
it was.
I was just like sitting there thinking about where I would like to be. And I was like, man, I wish I was up in Grouse Ridge. And, you know, we were kind of talking about it anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to paint my impression of it and kind of give my own tone to it. And, you know, like even just the stages, like Diego does lots of the stages of his paintings. And there are some that just really strike me before the finished product. And I'm like, it's this point of before you add to it that it could become so many different things that I love.
Yes.
And then seeing the finished thing, you're like, wow, like I wouldn't have done that, but I love it. Like, it's just
right. So- I feel that every time I'm watching one of those like pour videos or like an abstract video. I've also gotten into a lot of people who work with pastel, like oil pastels, and the way they do it. And I'm always watching going, oh my God, this is perfect right here. And then they keep going and I'm like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You've already got something amazing.
Right.
And then by the end of it, I was like, all right, that's fair. You knew what you were doing. That's why I'm on this side of the screen, just watching you and being amazed by it and wishing and thinking, maybe I'll try it.
Right.
I did just get a kit a couple weeks ago to try.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But I mean, I feel like art has become in society this thing that you have to be good at to even attempt. And no art is something that you have to be good at to do. Like, you need to be able to just do it as your own outlet. And if it ends up being good, awesome. And if it doesn't, it's still something for you. That is your gift. And
to yourself.
yeah, for yourself. And I'm sure, you know, most of our loved ones are always like, oh yeah, that was great. And I'm like, bitch, that was bullshit. Don't you fucking lie to me. You know, it's all of these things where, you know, what do we get from it for ourselves? And, you know, Diego was explaining, you know, this was his outlet to pull him out of this dark place of losing that art through movement. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to be able to teach dance still. And even that once a week for an hour, having that has been so helpful. Like being able to see people move and move in a space with them. There's just something about it that is so great. Like I've seen some awesome things coming through the video art form of dance. And I've seen some, here's just dance being performed. Here's a video. And the whole idea of dance for video is super fascinating to me too. Like,
really is. It's a different type of dance that we never really considered before. You know, we've always had like, there's ballet, there's tap, you have your lyrical, your modern, your whatever, but doing dance specifically to be filmed and not done in a live environment is so different, and you can do so many fun things with it. So I think videography as an art form is evolving for all of these, because it's the same with music. I know a lot of performers, a lot of musicians that I am interested in that are small scale, very sort of indie, like not mass produced. They do their own marketing. They've been doing like concerts and YouTube like streams. And it's been really interesting because sometimes they're not even in the same location together.
Yeah.
And they will, you know, make their little Zoom video photos all line up. And it's really fascinating to me how much we can do with the videography of various art forms now.
Yeah. And it's like they've always had, you know, dance on film and like professional settings, like Singing in the Rain. I mean, that is very much performed with the camera moving around it. It's
love it.
Where we're now taking this concert dance and finding it for the normal human, for the person that wasn't going into production for a movie or a musical or what, like, it's so cool to like, it's something that we can all grasp now. It's not just something that is beyond our reach anymore. And I think that's what I like so much about it, is what technology is being used for to bring us together. Like, instead of us all just crumbling and being like, well, we're all fucked, it's like, how do we come together? How do we still give the world art? How do we still share all of this in a way that is enjoyable, in a way that feels magical, like when you're there? I think that's what a lot of, when you're, I mean, most of our concerts, when they're being filmed, it's just one static camera sitting at the top of the stairs and it's just filming. Like, they don't follow you around. There's nothing that is directed towards the camera. It's just sitting there and like, there's your shit. And so it's always felt very two-dimensional. And now we're bringing a three-dimensional feeling to it. And it gives more emotion, and it's beautiful. I love it. Anyway.
It's fascinating.
I think it's equally important to recognize, though, that even if we are creating and doing these artistic things, if they're not being shared, that does not devalue them. Because I know that's a thing for me that I've wondered, like, well, why they're doing it? It's not good. Because it makes me feel good. I like to dance still, even though, you know, I can't afford to go to classes right now. And so I just will throw on some music and just have like I refer to it as like a jazz section of like, you know, musicians who play jazz, they improv it on the spot. I do that with my dance around the house.
Heck yeah.
I just put my earbuds in and I start just whatever the music says to me, I just like beep bop my way around the house.
Yes.
And it feels great.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And it's for nobody but me.
Right.
Because I do it when nobody's here. Sometimes I do it when my family's here and they look at me like I'm crazy. But then they also know, just like, all right, she's doing her thing, whatever. Yeah. Just ignore her.
I do that in the kitchen. Like, if I'm making something in the kitchen, I will turn on music and you will deal with me dancing around the kitchen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It makes the body happy, which makes our brains happy.
Yes. And I am a firm believer that we are all artists, some to another, to a more extent than others, but we all make sounds, right? We all listen to music and write things. Maybe some people write more about the sciences and other things, and some of us write more about whatever, right? But I believe that art is everywhere, really. Art is everywhere. And yeah, like you said, Lauren, doing something artistic, and I'm just going to put that quote unquote artistic,
whatever it is,
may not necessarily need to be validated or shareable. Art is a pleasurable act. Making art, doing art, performing, singing, writing, it's a pleasurable act. Otherwise, why we wouldn't be doing those things, right? It's like, oh no, it's gonna cause me pain. I mean, yes, to a certain degree in dance training, that is to a certain degree painful.
It can,
but
the
decision to take action, right, in these disciplines, it's pleasurable, and it's joyful, and whether you do it for yourself or for others, there is an element of joy, of play, of discovery and excitement,
Yeah.
And I think that is perhaps the reason why so many people are reaching to the arts during this time of pandemic, because we are all like, oh fuck, pandemic, ooh. and we are so like crushed, really. On top of that, add all the violence, add all the everything. I mean, all the darkness that is constantly around us.
Yeah.
So I think that's why so many people are reaching for the arts, reaching, oh, please teach me how to write a poem, or oh, please dance tutorial, YouTube, because there is pleasure in that. There is joy, and there is, even if there's not that, if someone may not necessarily experience those things, at least they got distracted for a moment, right?
Yeah.
From all that.
It's very grounding, I believe.
Absolutely.
To engage in some sort of creativity is a way to be grounded by letting your imagination be completely ungrounded. But for some reason, I feel like that helps me feel like everything is going to be okay. Like, I can get through this. It's an escape, but it's also very settling.
Yeah.
Which is a really weird combo.
It is.
In words.
I feel like when I'm writing, I really wish I could go there other places, but when I'm writing, I have this ability to like detach from myself, and the words just appear. And then when I'm reading it afterwards, it's surprising. Like, I'm not consciously aware of what is being created on the page. And I feel like when I try to do other arts, I overthink it, and that's where I get lost. And that's with some of the dance projects that I've been doing, I tried really hard not to do that. It was, how do I just be here and just give whatever this is? And I was mostly able to do that, I think, twice. With something that was more exposing of myself. I mean, I always, if it's something funny, I can just be like, there, I'm gone. Like, we do this. I don't have any issue with that. But there is something, like, even when I was painting with Diego and Alex last weekend, like, when I first started and I was creating my ombre scene, that was just freedom. That was me painting freedom. And then I started thinking about it. And then it was, oh shit, how do I make this into something? And then the brain starts to take over. And then it was like, you know what, I'm just going to think about colors, color palettes. How do I make these mountains? What are the colors that I see coming from those mountains? And I tried to kind of focus on that. And I mean, it came out better than I thought it was going to, which is nice. So, but it's
I liked
still,
it.
yeah. I mean, it was, maybe we'll post.
We'll have to share it.
Yes.
But it was like a conscious decision to try to not consciously create art, because I wanted it to be a release. I mean, I'm sitting next to Alex just watching her paint emotion into this thing, and I'm just like, that's so beautiful to watch. I couldn't really see Diego because he was sitting on the floor unless I like peeked down, but like sitting and like being in that energy where it's so free and it's just spilling your soul onto this paper. Like, oh, I have goosebumps right now, you guys.
No, it really is. Though. It really is. And when you think about it, painting, it's a type of movement. It's a type of moving. And so is writing. It's movement. It may not necessarily be what we are used to do on the stage, but it's a type of movement. And with that comes the breath, and with that comes the emotion, and with that comes the sense of editing, if you may.
Yeah.
Like thinking like, oh shit, now I have to turn this into something. Oh, now I have to create a phrase. Nah, just fucking do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point when I was painting that some of the black got onto the paintbrush and I didn't realize it. And I started painting, I was like, oh fuck. But then it turned into shading and I was like, cool.
Right.
There we go.
Roll with it.
Yes.
Right. That's what happened. That's what it is now. And, you know, I didn't have a purpose for what it was for. So there was nothing I could really be upset about. It was just like, this is just what it is. And that's what it is. Like, you know, there's not a lot of times where I feel like I do that with painting or creating dance, any type of movement. I do that quite frequently with writing, where I will submit something on hit record where they just have a prompt and I write it and I send it off and then it's done. Like, I don't have to do anything more with it if I don't want to. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody being like, I want to know more about this. You should write a follow-up. And I'll be like, all right, I guess I'll figure something out. But you know, it's nothing that's expected of me. I'm not expecting it of myself. And like, even now, I've had the final edits of my book for a month and I've just been avoiding looking over the final edits because that means the next step is publishing, and that scares the shit out of me.
Yay!
I know. But it's like, you know, I wrote this, it started off with text messages to my friend, and he was like, what the shit, this is good, put it on paper. And then my mom saw it, and then she was like, turn this into a book. And I was like, whatever. And so then I started doing, I mean, it's been, when did I start this? 2016. Like, it's been a long process, and a lot of it was, one, convincing myself that it didn't matter what other people thought. I just wanted to put it in a book form because that's fucking awesome. Like, I hired somebody to do the cover and I hired somebody to do the editing, and now those two pieces are done. And I'm just like,
now it's on you.
Yay.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah. But you know, there's something in there where I'm trying to allow the art to be free and not let it become, oh, I'm releasing it into the general public, so now they have control over it. You know, it's a very difficult fine line for me. And, you know, I think when there is books, people tend to mostly just share the negative about it, because that's most of the time when somebody doesn't like something, they're more likely to respond rather than if they like it. I mean, I know that if I really enjoy a book or a piece of art, I'm going to comment on it. Like, there was a time, I don't know, was that last year, 2 years ago? I don't know. At some point when I hadn't read in a long time, and I kept trying to read things and nothing was really allowing me to focus enough on it. And my depression and anxiety were just kind of taking over everything. And I found this book and I started reading it, and I didn't want to put it down. And I was like, wow, it's been a really long time since I felt that. And it was awesome. And I was like, I want to give that to somebody. Like, I want my book to be able to do that to somebody. Even if other people hate it, I just hope that there's one person that can find something that they connect with. And that kind of helped push me forward again to like, okay, we're going to go through 1,500 more edits. And, you know, it's, I mean, it's a fucking process. The people that bust out books, like, I mean, my mom has been doing it. She's like, oh, I have to release 2 books this year. And I'm like, like, cool. Like, I started book 2 of the book that I haven't published yet, but it's like 10 pages. And then I have some other book that is not in the same genre that it's like 50 pages. And I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But I just, you know, I don't know. It's just like, how do we create our art in a way where it stays sacred for us, even if we are sharing it with other people? And remembering like what it is that we started doing it for, and what it means to us. Like, this whole first book that I've written has been a healing process. And, you know, I stick in a lot of stuff about mental health in it. And because I was dealing with that, I am always dealing with that. That is my life. And I feel like it's not really shown enough in books because people are afraid of how it's going to be seen. And that's one of the things where I'm like, I don't give a fucking shit. Like, you will read about mental health right now, because it's more, it happens so much more often than people realize. Like, I didn't realize that I had such bad fucking anxiety my whole life until I started taking anti-anxiety meds. And I was like, oh, like, all those times when I was a child and this was upsetting me is because of my anxiety. And, you know, it's like, it's nothing to do with the fact that my parents prevented me from dealing with it or getting care for it. It was that they didn't know, because they both have anxiety. So it's just normal. And it's not something you talk about, because it's not like, oh no, we can't talk about that at school. Oh no, we're just normal humans. Everything's fine. Like, nah, bitch, we all fucked up.
We are. I think everybody has something wrong with them mentally.
Oh yeah, for sure.
On some level.
Yeah. And it's like, it gets
there.
so bad because we don't talk about it anymore. Like, we don't communicate with each other about these things. So we have no support system. And it's just like, oh, now I have to take drugs because my brain's been fucked up for the last 34 years. Like, woo! But yeah, it's, I don't know. Art is a way to help us deal with that while sharing our experiences in a safe way. Like, I can hide behind my book and you guys can just read it, and then I'll be like, bye, have fun. I can hide behind a podcast.
Unless we ask you to read a segment of your book out loud, then you can't hide.
I like that.
Then I'll be like,
I'm just saying.
hello. This is The Darkness of Placata Mantis by DLM.
Okay. Thanks for saying it, because I never knew how to pronounce that.
You're welcome. It's Latin, so. Oh, did he fart or growl?
He growled. It was a growl.
Dante. Anyways, that was a lovely tangent I just went off on.
Thank you. No, it is important. You know, it's important what you mentioned, because mental health is, I mean, it's, if you're not addressing mental health, there's something going on there. And, I mean, on this day and age,
it's denial. And
unfortunately, it's still the case. Many people refuse still. No, there's still sort of this stigma, I guess, around speaking and addressing and treating mental health. And it's art, like you said, art is a great friend. It's a great Therapist.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find a therapist, and I think mental health gets sort of seen as there's something broken about people, and it's not necessarily a flaw. It's just the same as, like, I think I've said this before, like, I have asthma, so I need to make certain adjustments to the way I live in order to maintain my version of health. And I think mental health needs to start being seen the same way, where it's not it can be debilitating, but it's more so about learning what is going on in yourself and what your needs are, how they interact with other people's needs, and how we can smooth those edges and create a harmony with the relationships that we have. Which is partially why I have some family members that I don't talk to anymore, because they refused to see a mediator. I even, we tried to say, like, okay, let's just meet with a mediator. It doesn't have to be like a therapy session. And they refused. So, well, fuck you then. I'm done with this relationship. I tried. But they just, like, sort of shrugged it off as stupid. The idea of meeting with a mediator, it's like, if you have a problem, if there's a conflict in your relationship with somebody that is close to you, is important to you, means something to you, then finding an outside party to be unbiased and help figure out, okay, you're interpreting it this way, they might not mean it that way, but they don't understand the way you see things, and you don't understand the way they see things. So with a third party, it's a lot easier to bridge those gaps. And I don't think enough people are willing to put themselves in the situation to have a third party member say, here's what you're doing that is causing friction in the relationship. Because it's a accountability thing. People don't want to be held accountable for the way they impact the world around them.
Right. Some people like to create this world where they're always the victim. And if somebody else comes in that's a trained professional, then they have a harder time arguing that. And
right.
I mean, why do you not want to be a better person? Like, I don't understand that mentality.
I don't know.
I'm gonna keep sucking. It's fine.
Oh, I feel like that needs to be on a t-shirt.
Maybe that'll be our first piece of merch.
Oh, yes,
we need so many merch things. It doesn't make sense. Like, what is it that you think the world owes you so much that you can't try to improve yourself to be a part of the solution to make the world better? Like, where the fuck do you come off thinking that you're so much better than all of us? Good Lord. I'm fine.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of those people out there.
Yeah. Clearly.
But I think that's why we have these discussions.
Right.
And why we are recording them, so that maybe somebody will hear it, although I think most of our audience is already on board with us.
Right. They're all like, you're fucking cool. You guys know. And you know what?
It's okay to be vulnerable.
Right.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Which, tie in, being creative, being artistic, sharing, that's vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all good.
Yeah.
That's how we grow as people.
Even if you're just being vulnerable with yourself, like, that is a huge thing to be able to.
So hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's harder for me to do that than it is to write a book about vulnerable shit and just be like, well, you can think that it's me or you cannot. I don't give a shit. But if it's very clearly, I mean, the things that they're dealing with in the book, spoiler alert, are things that I was dealing with at the time. So,
completely makes sense. And in that way, your art is your therapy.
Exactly. And
it's helping you categorize and track and deal, because if you can figure out how to help your character, then you can help yourself.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, I'm a dumbass, and then you're like, this is what I need to do to work through it, and it's cool. But yeah, it's great to have that for myself, like, to be able to create these characters that are flawed or whatever. And I see them as normal. And it's funny because my mom was reading my very first, like, completed she sent it out to a bunch of people to beta read, and her one thing was, I just realized I never make any of my characters eat. Like, none of them ever have a meal. And I'm like, oh, mine eat all the time. I love food. They need because I love to eat. And, you know, it's just something so simple of like, yeah, a lot of things don't talk about normal things like that. Like, I have my characters go to the bathroom and eat food. And I was like, wow, you really don't see that a lot in books or movies. Like, it's very strange. Like, it's something so simple to allow people to connect to. And it's just, oh, I have to focus on this fantastical idea. Nothing can change that. And I'm like, this person's gonna eat a fucking sandwich. Here's all the ingredients. Like,
and then this person's gonna disappear in the bathroom for 20 minutes because they don't feel well.
There we go.
Because that's so fucking life.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
love it.
so lovely.
That is necessary.
Yes.
Sandwich. Eat a fucking sandwich. It has turkey and lettuce and tomatoes and pepperoni.
That's great. That's good. That's really good. I look forward to reading the menu.
Yeah, it made Paul hungry. He was like, "No, I want a sandwich." I was like,
"Seriously,
Then you did your job."
I may have to.
Everybody's got to go eat, and I had a side of fruit. There was a side of fruit to eat too. So, you know, got to be healthy, rounded. Oh my goodness. Speaking of writing, Diego, you've been putting out a lot of poems too. I always try to translate your ones that are not in English because I'm like, what does this mean? And I feel like Google Translate sucks, first of all.
Oh, yes. People out there, hold on, Danielle. People, if you're listening to this, stop relying on Google for translation, please. All right, sorry, Danielle.
No, I mean, it's a big thing. And I'm like, I want to know, like, it's so interesting to me because you do some of them in English and some of them in Spanish. And it's like, when I'm translating it into my lame one language mind, I'm not seeing the meaning in the way that you wrote it. And, you know, I know we've had this conversation about like how sometimes when we're saying things, you translate it into Spanish in your mind, and then you have to reply to us in English. You have to like retranslate it. And, you know, what gets lost in meaning through that? What gets lost in translation? And are your poems different versus what you're saying in English versus what you're saying in Spanish?
Oh yes, certainly. It's a relationship. It's a relationship because I started writing poetry as a teenager. I was always interested in poetry, and it's always been a part of me. Since I moved to the States, which this will be my 13th year living in the States. So since I moved here, I have developed that sort of relationship of listening, interpreting, answering. And yeah, I mean, the truth is there is a part of me that it's sort of performed in this language.
Yeah.
I mean, Lauren, Danielle went to my wedding celebration in Mexico City, and I'm not gonna get into details about that, but I am assuming, Danielle, that you saw a completely different person than what you see here in the States.
Yeah, you like here, I feel like you're much more reserved and calm, and you were so free when we were in Mexico City. It was just like, I mean, it was Party Diego. I was like, Party Diego is dope. And like, I loved it. I loved seeing your culture. I loved experiencing it that way. I mean, it was so beautiful. I'm like, fuck, I wish that I knew Spanish so that I could be more part of this, or just be like Paul and get drunk and have a conversation with your fucking dad for an hour and nobody knows what they said.
Nobody knows what the conversation was. So anyway, returning to here, when it comes to poetry, I approach poetry basically as playing. I play with words and I play with meaning, and there's beauty in that. There's beauty in rearranging words, because it's like choreography to me. Writing poetry, I treat it as a choreography. Like, oh, what happens if I play with repetition? Oh, what happens if I play with the end, what I wrote at the end, and then bring it here? Like, to me, it's basically a compositional dance with words. And in terms of
I like that.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of meaning, I would say that the poetry that I write in Spanish tends to be a little bit more aggressive, if you may. Aggressive in a way that I can't find the words. Like, I know what this word is. Like, for instance, I don't know. Fuck it. I'm trying to think. Sorry. La la la.
Exactly.
I mean, a simple word as machismo, right? Machismo.
Mm-hmm.
Machismo would be, I guess the English word would be violence against women, right? So it's different because machismo has a whole cultural component to it, and yes, violence against women does too. But the word itself evokes something in Spanish that for the English language may not necessarily be as
operable.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. So, but yeah, I mean, regardless of the language, I treat it as a little dance, just playing with words, like me.
Great explanation.
I mean, it's hard to explain poetry, really. I don't think
it is.
I don't think I've ever tried. Poetry is poetry.
Yeah.
It's not, at least my poetry doesn't seem to be literal. It doesn't look to educate anyone. It has the sole purpose of being a poem.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone will connect to it or not. Either way, it's there, and
they will or they won't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that.
It's not for them, it's for you.
Right. I used to write a lot of poetry in high school, and I guess my mom kept it all, and she gave it to me a few years ago, and I was reading it, and it was like, holy fuck, like, it is very clearly me going through anxiety and depression. And when I was writing it, it was just that teen angst of how do I complain about these things, and reading it now as an adult, it's like, oh, I really was looking to try and deal with these things and didn't know how. And it felt very forced. And I didn't really want to show people because, they'd think, oh, she's just trying to get attention, blah, blah, blah. Nobody ever thought that. But in my mind, that's what it was. And now looking back at it, it's kind of just like, yeah, I needed attention in a way of therapy, but that's fine. But yeah, so it's like when I'm writing poetry, which is not often anymore because I tend to overthink it, when I'm writing it, it is often a prompt from hit record. It's something that I think that that vulnerable part of me, again, that thinks that it needs to be something, because most of the poetry that I wrote was either in high school or required for a class. And it wasn't something that I ever really let flow free. And I kind of realized that when, I'm going to tangent for a minute, but when I have a THC gummy, it allows me to see myself in a lighter state. I'm not so negative against what I'm doing, how I'm existing. And there's been a couple of times where I'll have a thought and I will send it to myself. And I'll just read one of the random ones that I send to myself. I know Lauren texts herself a lot too, but
all the time, all day, every day.
all day, every day. But there was one where I was just sitting with Paul and what is that? And you know, he was experiencing this moment with me in the car, and I was just being quiet and watching him. And for him, it was like, the fuck are you doing? But in my mind, I was just like, I was filled with so much love. And so I wrote myself this thing. It said, I want to have adventures without you. So we can bring, so I can bring to you all of the good parts later and share something with you that we've never experienced together. And at the moment we were talking about, like, it was one of those things of like, why you make plans without me? How come you don't want to go on all these vacations together? And I sat there and thought about that, and I was just watching him, and I was like, what is it about that I want to find? And it's when we have those experiences without each other and we come back and we can tell them and relive them, it's so cool. Like, it's cool to relive something that you went through together as well, but there's something about being able to tell that story and bringing them into it without them actually being there, where you can just show them the magic. Like, you don't need to talk about the parts where you stubbed your toe and you were like, fuck my life, I broke my toenail. Like, you know, you can leave those parts out and you can have them experience the magic of it. And there was something in that. Like, I love when he goes on rides and comes back and I get to hear stories. Like, I missed out on all the parts where he was annoyed. And I get to hear what he enjoyed and what parts he liked and the things that he got to stop and take a picture of because it was so striking to him. And so like that in itself is poetry to me, is being able to find those moments and tell those stories to people, but only exposing the parts that bring the magic. And that's kind of what I see in my poetry, is how do I put this magic into less words so that you're seeing this, but then like knowing through the lines that there was more to it, but you can create that yourself. That was a fun tangent. So
it was. I've actually been kind of trying to get into poetry as well, because I have those same moments where I just have these fragmented thoughts. I'll come up with a phrase that I really like that seems really sort of ethereal and you know, highbrow or whatever. And I want to work it into something. So I have my saved messages. I text myself constantly. I sleep with a notepad next to my bed because most of these happen at night. And I have like I have a red flashlight so I can click it on and not wake my husband up while he's sleeping. And it's funny because as Danielle was mentioning, you know, texting ourselves, I scrolled through my messages to myself and I completely forgot I did this. We got Taco Bell a couple of weeks ago and I made a poem out of the hot sauce packets. Yeah, so you know how they have those dumb phrases?
Fantastic.
I laid them all out and I texted pictures of myself, hot sauce packets, in the form of like some weird poem. And I also texted that it's either incredibly sassy or it's a really toxic relationship I was talking about with hot sauce packets.
I love that.
So art is whatever the fuck you want it to be, even if it's hot sauce packets.
Yes.
I mean, hot sauce is art, so.
And yeah, I wrote a love poem in Taco Bell hot sauce packets.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I might have to share it, I guess.
Please.
It's terrible.
No, it's magnificent. You better add that shit.
I will add that shit.
Yeah, write that down.
Happened.
That shit happened.
Taco Bell.
Oh my goodness.
Hot sauce poetry.
Hot sauce. I love that. That should be its own genre. Hot sauce.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna do it again next time we get Taco Bell, which isn't really that often, but I love hot sauce, so they give me all the packets, and then I was like, what can I make with these?
Yeah.
And I went so far as to the only hot sauce packet that is used is in also a very specific spot, and it's the only one that had that phrase on it. Like, I overthink it to an obscene degree. I'll just read my poem. How about that? I'll just read my hot sauce poem.
Please,
Yeah.
please.
Hot sauce
So,
poem. Hashtag hot sauce poetry.
Hot sauce poetry. First of all, step aside. First of all, I can't let you go. First of all, step aside. I can't let you go. First of all, step aside. Of course I will. I do.
Damn. That was intense.
Yeah.
I do was the only one that got used, so it has a corner torn off at the very end. I have no idea what that means, but I think it's supposed to mean something. There were a lot of repeats, so I was trying to figure out how I can use the repeating phrases in a pattern.
Yes.
I loved it. It was great.
There might have been a tincture involved in that day.
Good. Do it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my
Hot sauce
gosh.
poetry.
I love
It's its
it.
own thing. When I lay in bed, one of the other things I do is I write haikus in my brain. I found that I really am interested in syllables and the way using a limited number of syllables to express, it cuts out junk words. All of all the indefinite articles have to go away. You can't use them. The has no place in a haiku.
Nah.
So that's one of the things that I text myself, these little phrases that I'm hoping someday I will aggregate them all into a structure that I can write down. But at the moment, it's mostly just fragmented thoughts. But I'm excited for the idea of using them for poetry.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that hot sauce poetry needs to be a thing.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I remember the moment so distinctly. We went to the comedy. That was the night we went to the comedy show in Sacramento, which I guess I'll probably plug because it was awesome. And it's called Corner House Comedy, and it's my husband's friend does it in his backyard. He's got a real backyard. It's BYOC, bring your own chair.
Nice.
And it's limited seating, so it's not, and it's outside, and it's great, and it's just a bunch of local comedians come up and do their craft, and it was really great to watch, and it was also really great just to get out. And then we drove through Taco Bell on the way home. I had a panic attack the whole way home. Actually, it was terrible, and I realized that I was trying to ground myself. I texted myself the whole way home, and my husband's sitting next to me. He goes, you having an anxiety text fest over there? I'm like, and because he knows me so well. And because I felt obnoxious talking to him, and he assured me that I wasn't. But then I realized, and I told him, I'm trying to get grounded. And of course, he's a dad, so he looks at me and goes, "You're grounded." And I was like, "Motherfucker." All right, thanks.
Dad jokes.
And then dad jokes. He's really good at them. And then he was just talking to me about whatever. And I was like kind of listening, but I was like, hot sauce, poetry. So I just stood at the kitchen table and I was just arranging hot sauce packets on the table. And he's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm making art, motherfucker."
So good.
Oh, that's great.
Art is whatever you want it to be.
Damn right.
Yes.
So do art.
Yeah,
Whatever
man.
that means
Do
to you.
art. I mean, yeah. I feel like that is a great point to wrap things up because we always talk a lot, and that was an awesome ending. Diego, any final words of wisdom for us?
Oh, I wish I had wisdom to share.
Bitch, please.
Don't we all?
I don't know. I guess when I think of wisdom, I think of my mother. So I will quote her. I will use a sentence that she told me not that long ago. Esta vida es para aprender a amar. And that translates as, this life is for us to learn how to love. I guess that would be a token of...
That's delightful, which I'm not surprised
that.
because your mother is delightful. So, you know.
Yeah, she's very sweet.
She is. Yeah. She's my favorite human. Sorry, Diego.
Oh. Hi.
Push Diego aside. Push Lauren aside. This is so like if we just put Diego's mom here, I'm this dude now. And that's you guys.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I guess that
Right.
would be it. I mean, just yeah.
I like it.
That
That's
was
a good one to
beautiful.
end on. It's
Loved it.
better
Yeah.
than hot sauce.
I mean, you know, hot sauce is great too, but yeah. Yeah, thank
Learn
you
to love.
for joining us, Diego. This has been
Thank you. This
delightful.
was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a
Yeah,
dream
we're
come true.
probably gonna have to make you come back again because that was great fun. And then, you know, we might have to make you just talk about the difference in the cultures or something. I don't know. Culture should
Yes.
happen. Because
I am fascinated
I have
by
many stories.
yeah,
that about people who can live that dichotomy with
yeah,
two cultures and two languages, and we'll
Right.
save that for next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
For
yes.
next time. All right, guys.
Hot sauce poetry and learn to love.
Yay!
Poetry.
Hot sauce poetry.